Hi guys, see if you can hear me. Looks like my microphone is going out, I think. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Making sure before I get into everything. We have 5 on right now, so. All right, there we go. Okay, good. I never know because my husband has another microphone plugged in sometimes. So sometimes, yeah, my hair is down. It's already driving me nuts. So thanks. I literally had it in a ponytail the whole day. So right before I came to the church, I just took it down and brushed it. And that was it. So it's already bugging me though. I don't like it in my face. So I try to keep some tucked away. I don't, it drives me nuts. Don't like it in my face. But how are you all tonight? Make sure that you like and subscribe, share the video, all that good stuff. We'll get that out. And I am now up to 81 people on my list of text. So if you have not signed up for that, just text gently led, all one word, 231996. And then you'll get a notification before I go live. I sent the notification out a little bit early. I sent it 10 minutes ago. So sometimes it seems like it works better when I send it right before the show. So if it does, I'll continue doing that. But I did send it out a little early. So, yep, they're all on there. Now, it says that I have 81 subscribers. But when I send the text, it says that only like 79 are sent. So I'm wondering if 2 of you aren't getting it. If maybe, I don't know, the number doesn't work or something. I did notice that. So thanks, Miss Sherry. It drives me nuts. I don't wear my hair down very often because I'm just so busy throughout the day. So my kids are pretty much used to seeing me with my hair up in a bun, just a crazy ponytail. And Allie always tells me when I take it down, you know, just let my hair down, I guess. She's always like, Mom, you need to wear your hair like that. But I never do. So I don't know, Hope. It might, or Shara, it might be a factor that you're in Canada. So I'm wondering if that's it. So it definitely might be. Hello, Dawn. Hello, everyone. Sarah, Miss Sherry, Karen, Sheila, Celine. Hi, Abby. She's out here. She's at home. Let's see. Did I miss anyone? Bethany, Amber, Alicia, Jen. I think I got everyone. Sarah. Welcome, welcome. I hope you all are surviving. The lockdown. Trying to make do over here as best as I can. Illinois has a tyrannical governor, so we're shut down for technically another 30 days. So I might be in the loony bin by the time this is up and all said and done, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's definitely teaching me patience, that is for sure. Patience on not going crazy and keeping my sanity. So, but anyways, let's get right into the show. This is something that I really wanted to talk about. Actually, someone in my church, one of the ladies in my church, kind of asked me to do something along these lines, just with, you know, cultivating relationships with your children. You know, I really feel like, I don't know how many of you are my age group. I am 39. So I was raised by the baby boomer generation. And I feel like the baby boomer generation really, especially first generation Christians, I feel if you come from a first generation home, Christian home, they came out of rebellion. At least I know my parents did. And, you know, they had just been through, you know, the 60s and all that. And I feel like when it came to raising kids, when they were first saved, they kind of overcompensated. And they really didn't know what they were doing because they hadn't been raised, you know, in a Christian home. So because of that, they overcompensated and they focused so much on drilling the rules and kind of raising little soldiers, raising little robots, and not really focusing so much on having their children's hearts. And I feel like a lot of people my age came out of that childhood scarred, and they had a lot of regrets going into being an adult, and maybe a lot of baggage that they had to get over as far as how they had been raised. So this is something I've worked on with my own children, just trying not to fall into that same pattern. And if I can be any help to anyone else who's getting ready to raise kids, maybe you're a first generation Christian, you're kind of at that same spot. You weren't taught in a Christian home. You really don't have any idea where to start. So I'm hoping that this can be a help to you tonight. But first I want to start out with one of the most famous verses when it comes to, raising children or young women. Titus 2:4-5 says that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. So in this verse, it talks about the older women teaching the younger women, and it mentions in there to love their husbands and to love their children. So obviously this is something that, that mother instinct, that mother love, that does come natural. But I think the word love encompasses so much more than just a feeling. Love is also action. And I looked up the word love in the Webster's 1828 dictionary. And you're thinking, the meaning of love is so simple. Why do we need to look at that meaning? But the world has twisted the meaning of love so much today that I think it's important to look at the meaning of it. And the love verb, it means in a general sense to be pleased with, to regard with affection, on account of some qualities, with excite pleasing sensations or desire of gratification. We love a friend on account of some qualities which give us pleasure in his society. We love a man who has done us a favor, in which case gratitude enters into the composition of our affection. We love our parents and our children on account of their connection with us and account of many qualities which please us. It kind of goes over some of the other things. In short, we love whatever gives us pleasure and delight, whether animal or intellectual. And if our hearts are right, we love God above all these things. I love how Webster always fit God in verses into his definitions. So this is all from his dictionary. As the sum of all excellence and all the attributes which can communicate happiness to intelligent beings. So he's saying, if we are, if our hearts are right, we're going to love God above all of that. And I really truly believe that if your love for God is first, then all these other things are going to kind of fall in line. If you love God, you're going to love your husband. If you love God, you're going to love our children, because he tells us in his word to love our husband and our children. So, and then he lists some verse, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So obviously those are big commands, because if we love the Lord God with all our heart and all our soul and all our mind, like I said, that's going to put a lot of things into, it's going to prioritize a lot of things into our lives. And also, if we love our neighbor as ourselves, that's huge, because who loves other people more than themselves? You're always looking out for yourself and number one, right? Well, if you love others and place them above yourself, then that's what God wants. That's what the Bible tells. And then also, love is a noun, to have a benevolence or goodwill for. And he lists John 3:16. And we all know John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave. See, right there, that required action. He loved and he gave. And I believe his mother's love is shown in action throughout the day so much. Love is more than just saying I love you. Love is cooking and cleaning and wiping noses and training, and so many things encompass the word love. So it's definitely, it's more than just a, short, little, simple 4-letter word. Love it encompasses a lot of things. So then the noun of it means an affection of the mind, excited by the beauty and worth of any kind, or by the qualities of an object which communicate pleasure, sensual or intellectual. It is opposed to hatred. So obviously, hatred and love are separate things. So if God commands us to love our children, there is no room for hatred if we are truly loving our children. And that is sadly something we see lacking in today's day and age. We have mothers who are murdering their own children. We have mothers who don't care about their children, who are only thinking of themselves. And there is no love in their hearts. There is only hatred for their children. So this is something that I think a lot of it depends on the way you've been raised. And, mothers are really dropping the ball when it comes to showing their children how they love them and teaching their children how to love their future children. So, all right. So, yeah, and we're going to be going over that, Sarah. So I'm sorry, that does leave a void for sure when you don't have that physical affection. So the love of God is the first duty of man, and this springs from just views of his attributes or excellencies of a character, which afford the highest delight to the sanctified heart. Esteem and reverence constitute ingredients in this affection, and a fear of offending him is its inseparable effect. I really like the way that Webster wrote. So that was in under his definition of love, the noun meaning of it. You know, a lot of mothers, they've decided to limit family size because of selfishness or thinking that kids are just too much work. And this is just a side effect of, you know, the humanistic society that we live in today. And I've also seen a pattern within large families of raising little soldiers versus really investing in and gaining your child's heart from the time that they are young. And what I saw, okay, so I've been in the ministry now for almost 20 years. So I'm speaking from experience when it comes to this as far as watching people. Since the time that I got married at 20, my husband and I were in the ministry. He's been in some sort of ministry his entire life. He was born into the ministry. He was raised in the ministry. Church has always been a second home. He's always been around. So we had the opportunity, and I was raised in church my whole life. I wasn't as involved as he was, but he had the opportunity to really watch a lot of different families and kind of pick up on the good and notice the bad. And so we noticed this a lot. And we also were able to, when we were at our previous church, Lighthouse, he was the youth leader, and we were able to see almost an entire generation of kids from the time they entered 7th grade. We were there until they had graduated and gone on to college. So that was kind of cool because we saw a lot of them. He saw a lot of them from the time they were born, and then all the way he got to be their youth leader and everything. So that was a really neat experience. And we noticed what happened, how parents raised kids that turned out and how parents raised kids that didn't turn out. And when I say didn't turn out, I mean, as soon as they turned 18, they were gone. They abandoned everything that had to do with God. They became bitter. They left and got into the world and just abandoned their entire upbringing. So we got to see different methods that worked and different methods that didn't work. So, I have a lot of people say, well, your kids are too young. So young, why are you even trying to give advice on the subject? Well, like I said, we have been in the ministry a long time. So we have been able to observe a lot. I have not arrived yet. All of my children are not grown. I do, however, have an 18-year-old son. So I have raised one to an adulthood. I have a 17-year-old son as well. He still lives at home. When he turned 18, he was not ready to just be out on his own and abandon everything that he had been taught. He was not rebellious. He's not rebellious. And he's just a good kid. He's a really, really good kid. And we are very close. Me and him are very, very close. And he's close with his dad too. But I feel like with him, especially, I really have his heart. And I know that, and he said it before, he can't imagine ever do anything to hurt me. And that's very, very sweet. And that's what a mom wants to hear. I don't cry over him. He doesn't make me cry. I'm not worried about him being out and partying. And he works a man's job right now. He works over at least 42, 43 hours a week, hard labor, making good money, but he's working a man's job until he decides what he's going to do next with his life. But he hasn't jumped ship, and he's still going to church faithfully. In fact, his job just came up for they're changing around shifts, and he had to apply for a different shift. And he even put on there that, he cannot work Wednesday nights or Sundays. He just can't. He said because of religious beliefs, he has to have off for church. And that's just he's not budging on that. So I'm proud of him when it comes to that. But, I have not definitely arrived. I was just talking to my kids yesterday, and I told them, I said, I'm going to be I'm going to be so proud and so happy. This is my goal for all of you. I want you all to marry pure. And I want all of you to, after you're married, stay in church and serve the Lord. I don't care what job you work. I don't care what you do with your life, as long as you're providing for your family and you're serving the Lord and you love him. That's seriously my goal when it comes to raising kids. So am I there yet? No, not totally, but I am liking what I'm seeing so far. And, you know, I'm trusting the Lord that when he says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. I'm trusting in his promises of that. So, you know, we've done some things from the time that they were young that has ensured that we have our children's heart, because I don't want my kids just dutifully. That's not how you say that word. I don't want my kids doing everything just because they have to, because they're being forced to. I want them to do it because it's their conviction. It's their standard. So, you know, these are just some things that we've done going into the list. And this isn't like a checklist mentality too. My husband hates the checklist mentality. I'm not telling you, okay, you know, if you follow A, B, C, you're going to raise perfect kids. You know, I don't have it all figured out. I mess up. This whole motherhood thing is, some days you feel like you have it figured out, and then the next day life throws you a curveball and you're like, I'm a failure. All my kids are going to turn out and they're going to end up prison. You know, you think that. We're moms, right? We think that. So I don't have this all figured out for sure. But here are some of the things we've done with our kids, and, you know, so far so good. So from the time your kids are born, shower them with love and affection. I know a lot of us grew up in homes where maybe the love and affection was really not there. And we did feel like there was a void in us because of that. So, you know, and what kind of affection am I talking about? Well, first of all, physical affection. You know, they've done studies with babies, horrible, cruel studies, where they would put the babies in bassinets and they would just leave them there. They would feed them, give them a bottle, but they would not physically touch them. Well, every single baby would end up dying. Babies need physical touch and physical affection from the time that they are born and they're placed on us. And so I've always been even from the time they come out of my womb, you're beautiful. I love you so much. You're such a great gift from God. You know, you don't realize how much is going into their little brains and how much they're soaking up. And they have done studies when people have adopted children, when children have been abandoned, even from the time, if they get them at 1, that whole first year, they didn't have much physical affection. They didn't have much human interaction, and they're scarred for life. So their brain is growing so rapidly in those first few years. They're soaking up everything like a sponge. So, you know, make sure that you give them that physical affection. Tell them that you love them often. Give them hugs and give them kisses, and, you know, all sorts of things. If you want to, you know, co-sleep and do the attached parenting, you know, wear your baby throughout the day. Don't just put him in a swing for half the day, and, you know, do things like that. I remember one time I was in the nursery, and I don't think it was a regular person that came very often to church, but they dropped their baby off in the car seat. And they were like, oh, sorry, I haven't had time to change him. He's been sleeping in his car seat all night. And I was just like, I was only, 16. And I went to go change him. And I just felt so bad for this poor little baby that had been literally sitting in his car seat for like 12 hours a night. And it made my heart break. And and the mom, like, even to give him the bottle, she had like propped the bottle up on a blanket so that he could just eat the bottle. She didn't take him out. He stunk horribly. He had not been changed. And, you know, I felt so bad for that little baby. And, you know, I think someone might have said something to her too. She had a lot of kids, and this was like a long time ago. I can't even remember her name. And, you know, it's not good to put your baby in the car seat and let him sleep there all night and then just give him his bottle propped up. You know, you're taking care of his needs. He's being fed and he's getting sleep, but he's not getting the physical affection that he needs. So I just remember that broke my heart as a teenager, and I knew something wasn't right with that. So, you know, give them words of affirmation. Let them know how important they are to you. Let them know how proud you are of them. Even as an almost 40-year-old woman, I would love it if my, dad was still alive to tell me how proud he was of me. He was super good at words of affirmation. He was always telling me, oh, Cassie, you're going to make such a great wife to some husband someday, and you're going to make a great mom. And, that stuff stuck with me, and I still remember that. And my dad had my heart. I would have done anything for my dad. And he had my heart, and that was one of the biggest things he did. He was so proud of me, and I could see it in his eyes too. And your kids know. I mean, why is it that from the time they're little, we cheer on every little thing they do? And they never grow out of that. Even if they're 16 or 17, they still want to hear you say that you're proud of them. They still want to hear you encourage them. From the time they roll over, yay! From the time they take that first step, you're amazing. You're so smart. Good job. The kids need that. Encouragement to, do the right thing. Stay the course, to be, keep doing good and keep doing right, give them that encouragement. So let them know that they're your whole world. Okay. One of the things that's always bothered me, and especially if I'm in Walmart or something and I hear a mom cussing at her kids, I have a hard time not interfering. And I'm very bold when it comes to some things. And my husband is always like, don't you get involved. And I'm like, come on, that's horrible. And he's always like, don't you get involved. Obviously, if it was something to where someone was being abused, I would step in and get involved. But if it's verbal, he's always like, don't get involved, even though I want to say something. But I'll just hear moms in Walmart, oh, you're such a brat. I can't stand you. Why are you doing this to me? Oh, you're such a pain, and things like that. Don't complain about your kids and call them burdens, and, talk about, oh, you cost so much work for me. This is so horrible. Kids pick up on that, and they know it makes them feel guilty, and first of all, your kid didn't choose to be born. God placed them in your womb. You're the one you and your husband, or you and your boyfriend, if you had a child before you were married, you decided to, basically take on that responsibility when you decided to have, relations. So the child God gave you, I see children as a blessing, and they're a lot of work, yes, but you don't have to constantly go on about it. Oh, you're so much work. Don't call them burdens. Don't complain about them. Don't complain about what you could have been or what you could have done. I've actually heard in the past people talk about how their mom, if it wasn't for you, I could have gone on and done this. You came along, you were a surprise, and you ruined my whole career path, and you ruined my life. And it's horrible. Don't do that to your children. They're going to grow up with that ringing in their ears and feel like, they were just a mistake and they weren't wanted. And, one of the things I love about, and I've said this often, but one of the things I love about having children when my children are older is that they're able to see from the time I get those first 2 lines just how excited I am that God has given us a baby again. They're able to see the love for each new baby that comes, and they're able to see that that's how much I love them when I found out I was pregnant with them. So they know that every child is a blessing, that we see every child as a gift from God, and that we're happy, and we don't consider it a burden. Oh, there's more responsibility. Oh, 18 more years of homeschooling. We're excited, and we start praying right away that the baby will be safe and that nothing will happen, because I've been prone to miscarriage in the past. And, we start praying right away that, please God, let this baby grow. And, we have plans for the baby. We start talking about names and all these things with the baby. So, kids are able to see that you love children and you're so glad God gave you another one, and I think that's a good thing when you have children as your other children are older. So, be joyful. The Lord says that he maketh the barren, I can't remember the verse exactly, but basically he makes them to be a joyful mother of children. So be joyful. I know it's hard sometimes. For me, it's really hard when I'm first pregnant. Really, really hard. My hormones are going crazy. I'm worried about miscarriage all the time, so I always have to kind of keep my thoughts under control when it comes to that. So when I'm first pregnant, it's super hard. So if you have to, just take a breath and go into your room for a minute, because your kids will remember your blow-ups and you don't want to have blow-ups. So, just remember that kids do remember words, and they will remember when you lose your temper. So keep it in perspective like that. Get away for a minute if you have to, just to keep it all together, and then come back out. And, Sarah said, even at 22, she wants to hear that. I don't think it's something that ever goes away. I think we all crave a good relationship with our parents. And my husband has done a sermon before about that, about just basically parenting adult children. And he talked about how the need for our parents' approval never goes away. Even if you didn't have a good relationship with your parents growing up, that need is always there. And so if you do have adult children, make sure you praise them often. I mean, I do it with my older sons. I tell them how proud I am that they're hard workers. And here's the funny thing: when you get children to adults like I have right now, it's really, I'm enjoying this time that they're older. And it is like having 3 adults in the house, almost 4 now, because Jason will be 18 and a half of a year. So it is almost like having 3 adults in the house, but they don't cause me any problems. So it's a good time. It's a good time in our life. I feel like I can talk to Tommy like he's an adult. He is an adult. And, we have adult conversations, and I really like it at this age. But I've noticed even with him at 18, he needs words of affirmation, even from his mom. I tell him often how proud I am because he is working such a hard job and he's earning a man's wage. I tell him that he's a great worker. He's a great son. He doesn't give me any problems. And even though he's 18, I can tell he likes it. There's something about men, they really like praise, from women. And I feel like if as moms we're filling our sons' love tanks when it comes to that, they're not going to go seeking it from a girl somewhere until it's the right girl that comes along. And I want him to wait for the right girl. I don't want him to just go looking for someone that's going to tell him those things because he's so starved for it. So I try to make sure to tell my boys that I'm proud of them, and they're doing a great job and things like that. So this is one thing that we've done a lot with our kids. From the time they were younger, we have spent one-on-one time with them. Before this whole stupid coronavirus thing happened, I would take out my kids weekly. I would rotate kids, and one would come with me when we went to town to do grocery shopping and things. So I would rotate them. I'm going to start doing that again here. Now, this Thursday, I'm actually taking them all out. They haven't been out to eat in 2 months. And since we live so close to Iowa is opening up. So we are finding a restaurant. I'm going to take them all grocery shopping with me, and then we're all going to go out to eat afterwards. It'll be like a fun-filled trip. It's been 2 months. It's been a long time. So, but starting next week, I'll probably start taking them every week. I'll take a different one with me, and we spend one-on-one time. And I can tell with my kids when it gets to a point where they're really craving that. Maybe one is acting out more. And that's another thing. Just be really zeroed in on if your kids are maybe being more disobedient, more naughty than normal. They might just need a little more love in their love tank. So I notice if one is particularly having a lot of attitudes with me, giving me a lot of grief, then I will say, okay, I need to do something about this. Be proactive about it. I need to do something about this. And so instead of just like, spanking them constantly, and just sometimes you just need to lay off the discipline for a day or two and really focus on getting their heart. So you need to take them somewhere, just you and them. You need to talk the whole time, get to the root of the problem. And a lot of times you'll find, they're feeling overlooked, they're feeling neglected. This can happen sometimes in big families. Okay. It's hard when you have 9 or 10 people in a home and you're busy, busy, busy all the time, you know, it's hard. Sometimes it's easy to overlook problems that pop up in the heart. And you gotta weed those problems out quickly. Don't let them fester. Don't let them grow to where they become, you know, bitter or angry at you. So I can tell when one of my kids has a little bit of an attitude problem, I know there's a root cause and there's a problem with that. So I will take that child one-on-one, go do something fun with them, go take them out for ice cream, sit and give them my undivided attention, you know, put away the phone, put away the distractions, and just focus on that kid. And that really helps a lot. I notice a huge improvement. You know, sometimes there is a time for discipline, but sometimes, you know, there's just a time to really focus on that child and do something fun with them. So that's what I have found has helped me and my children have relationships. You know, take the time to stop everything you're doing and focus on a problem that pops up. I can't tell you how many times, and I know most of you know that have families of lots of kids, you're trying to cook dinner, you're trying to do this, and your kids come in with a question, and you're just like, okay, I need to address that. Or, you know, a problem pops up with two of your kids and they're fighting and things get said between them and you're like, okay, I really need to address that. So, you know, just be willing to stop whatever you're doing and focus on that problem. Don't yell at them, say you're being a bother. I need to get this done. Get out of my hair. I don't feel like talking to you right now. Just get away from me. They're going to remember that. You know, let them know that they are important by taking the time out to really focus on what's going on. Maybe they're just having a simple problem that can be fixed with 2 minutes of talking. You know, you don't know. So just take the time to stop what you're doing and focus on the problem. You know, make memories. Saturday, it was so beautiful. We hadn't been out of the house in forever. So we actually loaded up, the girls and I, and just made a little picnic lunch and went to the park and spent about an hour there. We didn't notice until we were almost done. It was actually closed, but I wondered why no one else was out. And it was like beautiful. There was one other family there and we had the whole park to ourselves. It's a huge park. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm wondering why no one's out. And then as we're leaving, I see the sign, this park is closed due to COVID-19. And I was like, oh, well, little rebels that we are. Oh, well. So we laughed about that after we found out. So that's probably something they'll remember. You know, we were rebels and we went to the park, even if it said it was closed. You know, sometimes do a fun day. Forget the work and just go do something fun. You know, the work will always be there. You'll always have the cooking and the cleaning and the washing and the school. It'll always be there. So sometimes maybe you're just having a stressful day and you're just like, I'm over this. We're doing something fun. The kids will remember that more than the ins and outs of every single day of washing and cleaning and all that. So, yeah. And Jessica, one thing that we do, she said the one thing all my kids ask for every year for birthdays and Christmas is a mommy, daddy, and me day. One thing we do on their birthdays are a really big deal around our home. So they always get a birthday party with like family. And then my husband has always taken them out on dates, just him and them. That's like their one time a year to just go out together. He'll take them to the store. They'll buy something. And it's just a very special time that they'll always remember. And I remember having a few dates with my dad, and especially right before he got sick with the ALS. And that sticks out in my head. Like I always remember that. So that is very, very special when you do the one-on-one time with your kids, especially when you have a lot of them. You know, they're going to really appreciate that time that they had alone with you. So, okay, here's another big thing with us that we try to do. We try to take the time to explain why we do things rather than just saying, because I'm the boss, that's why. And my husband and I heard this a lot when we were growing up. The old IFB, the way we were raised, they have raised some really good kids. The old IFB does a lot of things good, a lot of things right. They have a lot of stability for the most part. And a lot of them have been second, third generation Christians. But one thing that my generation did not do, the generation that raised me and the generation that raised my husband, they just played the authority card all the time. Well, you know, even if we had a question about it, why do we do this? You know, why don't we do this? Just listen to me. Just because I said so, that's why. Well, okay, that's fine for when you have kids in the house. Yeah, it's good and right that they listen to you and they obey you because God said, children honor thy father and mother. But here's the thing, that's not going to fly when they're 19, 20 years old and they have no explanation for why they do the things they do. Why do I go to church? Why do I dress the way I dress? Why do I not drink? Why do I not smoke? So one thing that, I know, Abby. So one thing that we have tried to do is we try to explain why we do things, okay? Not just said, shut up, kid. You're my kid. I'm the boss. My rules go. Just shut up and follow them. No, show them from the Bible. Show them from the Bible why we should dress like ladies. Show them from the Bible why we don't smoke and we don't drink, because our body is the temple of God. We want to be sober-minded. Show them from the Bible why we go to church. Show them where God commands to assemble together. So much the more as you see the day approaching. Different things like that. Just show them. And my kids too. I mean, they've been raised in a pastor's home, so it's been non-negotiable. Church has been with us. And so I think they would feel weird. Like when my husband was first talking about maybe going to live streaming, my kids freaked out. They're like, no, that's horrible. That's not going to be the same. We can't do that. And, we never really did go to live streaming. Lucky for them. And they were like, phew, like they were relieved because they love going to church. They love being in church. It's just normal for them. So I don't even think that's going to be an issue when we get older. But for some kids, it is. Maybe some kids, they just are like, all we ever do is go to church and get yelled at. Explain to them. Show them that it's important to you. Show them that nothing comes in the way of church. We don't miss church to go to a ball game, or we don't miss church to go boating all day. Show them that it's important. Show them, we love God and God commands us to, assemble together so that we can learn about him and worship him and things like that. So show them by example, but also if kids have questions, don't call them a dummy and you're just stupid. And we're humans. We're going to have questions about things. I mean, how many of you don't ever question God when he does something you don't understand in your life? It's human nature. Why, God? Why are you doing this? We want to know too. So don't call them a dummy. Don't call them stupid. Explain why you do things. It's not that hard. If you know why you believe what you believe, your kids are more likely to believe it too. Okay. If you're strong in why you believe what you believe and you can show from the Bible, then your kids are too. And that's one thing my husband always determined when he started the church. He said, I am going to make sure that every sermon I preach, I'm going to be able to prove it from the Bible. I want our people to know why we do things the way we do around our church. I want our people to know why I believe what I believe and why I'm teaching it. And I think he's always done a really good job doing that. He always has a lot of scripture. He tries to not take verses out of context and twist them whatever way he wants. And I really respect him for that, because it's one thing that we both learned when we were growing up. We were kind of both told that a lot. I'm the boss, just obey me. Okay, well, we were both pretty good kids, so we did. But then when we got married, I remember asking him, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? And he was like, I don't know. And he had to really dig in his Bible. And when he did, he found out my dad was right when he was teaching me this, but he never showed him how, or never showed him why we did this. So I think that's a huge thing, because kids are just growing up being forced to live right, but they don't know why. And if they don't know why, it's not going to be their own conviction. It's just going to be, I have to do this until I turn 18, then I'm out of here because this is stupid. No one's ever explained it to me. It doesn't make sense. I'm out of here. And I have seen so many IFB kids jump ship. It is not even funny. There have been so many. They are just out. And I think a lot of it is due to not explaining and showing them from the Word of God why we do the things we do. So that is a huge, huge one, I believe. So I'm sorry, I'm going to go through some of these. That's right, Abby. That's funny. Yeah, Shelly said it's vital to talk to them like they are intelligent beings. Exactly. If you're constantly talking down to your children, they're going to grow up with that mindset. Even when Lana asks questions, I try to answer in a way where I'm treating her older than what she is. You know, I'm gonna talk to my kids like they're older, not like they're some baby. So, all right. One of the most hurtful answers to why is you should know that. That's just like taking an easy way out. Why do we do this? Well, you should know that. Explain why. Explain why that you're doing that. So, I know, Miss Sherry. I really liked the ones that he preached there. I love when my husband preaches about the family. I feel like he's so wise in this area. I don't know if it's because he was just raised in a Christian home. And he, like I said, we've seen so many families come and go through the church, and we've learned so much just by watching parents and how they interact with their kids. And I'm telling you, all the families my husband has seen where they were the strictest disciplinarians, yet the minute their kids turned 18, they were gone. Compared to the family in our church that maybe was a little more liberal, but they had a love for God, and the rules that they had in their home were non-negotiable. And so where they might have had looser rules and they weren't as strict disciplinarians, all their kids that they raised, they're all in church. They're all still serving the Lord. So we've seen both ends of the spectrum. And once again, it comes down to balance. So much more that goes into child rearing than just spanking a kid. There's so much more. And you have to have the balance there. You know, you have to balance the discipline with the love. You can't just have, you know, one or the other. And when I say love, obviously, if you're not spanking at all, that's not true love, because the Bible says, you know, whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth. So as a parent, if you love your child, you are going to chasten him. So like I said, though, it's a balance. It's a balance of finding that. You don't want to be too harsh on your children. You don't want to be too lenient. So you got to find that middle ground. So yeah, I think so, Sarah. She said, I would have made way fewer mistakes if I'd been shown why sins were wrong. Exactly. It's easy to say, don't do this because I'm the boss and I say so. It's a little bit harder to take the time and say, don't do this because this is what's going to happen. The Bible says this. The Bible says this will happen. You know, it's a lot harder and it's a lot more long, and it takes longer when you have to actually sit down and show your kids that. So, and then Kirsten said, you should know that works for why shouldn't I hit my little sister in the head with a rock? Yes, there are some instances that will work. Now, if your kid is like, you know, why don't we, I don't know, why do we go to church every time the doors are open? Well, you should know the reason why. Why should they know the reason why? You know, you tell them. You tell them why you should go to church every time the doors are open. So, you know, be consistent in your beliefs. Don't be flip-flopping constantly. Kids, you're going to confuse your kids, and it's going to cause a lot of anger and anxiety if you're constantly, okay, kids, we're having this rule in our house. We're never watching TV again. Okay. And then you go through a week of that and you're like, this is horrible. I hate never watching TV. Forget it. So the next week you're like, all right, TV's back in the house, you know, and they're like, what in the world? And then the following 2 weeks later, you know, you're like, okay, kids, we're never going to watch movies ever again. And your kids are like, what? You know, and then after 2 weeks of that, you're like, forget this. Let's watch movies again. That's bad for your kids. You know, find a standard and stick with it. As far as TV goes in our home, and I do not base your life off of us. You come up with your own convictions that the Spirit puts on your heart. I hate when people even ask the way I believe. In fact, I've had people before, like in the FWBC listeners group, they'll ask, is it a sin to have a TV? And then someone will like tag me. Oh, I think the McMurtry's have a TV. I don't even answer. I'm like, you know what? That's stupid. You figure out if it's a sin. Don't go off a checklist. If you think it's a sin to have a TV, don't have one. If you don't think it's a sin, then have a TV. It's so stupid. So you come up with that your own conviction. For us, we've never had cable. We've never been connected to any type of TV service. We do have a TV that is connected to the internet. We have the Roku, whatever. Is that what it's called? I think. But we can watch YouTube on it. We got rid of Netflix. Amazon Prime. We have Amazon Prime on there. So basically YouTube and Amazon Prime. And then there's like, if a good movie ever comes out, we can watch that. So that's kind of our standard. We don't allow, rated R movies. My husband and I don't even watch rated R movies. We don't allow movies with nudity, things like that in our home. So that's kind of where our standard is. And we pretty much kept to that our entire married life. So my teens know what to expect. In fact, if they ever want to watch a movie, they just automatically look up the parental guide for it to see if any of that stuff's in it. And if any of that stuff's in it, they're like, oh, it's out. They just know. It's a very, very consistent standard in our home. And my husband and I pretty much have not wavered from that. That's pretty much the standard that we've kept. So don't flip-flop in your standards. Come up with your convictions, stick to them. Have plain, simple rules that are non-negotiable and easy to understand. You don't want to have like a list of like 50 million rules that your kids have to follow. Don't wear blue on Monday and you can only wear pink on Thursday. And, that's obviously stupid, but I've seen some rules that were pretty stupid in families. And, I think parents can overdo it, even when it comes to like Minnie Mouse stuff or My Little Pony. People get so obsessed with that. Your little girl is not going to know about the inner workings of Disney and how evil and wicked he is. Don't tell her she's an evil reprobate if she wants a Minnie Mouse shirt. Okay? That's just silly. Pick your battles. I've seen so many parents that make such a big deal over such a minor thing. And I'm not like that. Like for my girls, for example, when it comes to wearing makeup or painting their nails, I know some women that it's like, you are not wearing nail polish until you are 16 years old. And their daughter at 12, please, Mom, can I wear nail polish? And they battle about it day in and day out. And I'm sorry, that is not a hill worth dying on for me. So from the time my babies are like 3 months old, my girls, I'm painting their toenails. I think it's cute. When it comes to makeup, that's not a huge deal with me. So 12 or 13, I'll let them start wearing it. It's not a hill I'm going to die on. Obviously, I don't want them looking like a hussy. And but you could teach your daughter that, you can teach her, don't overdo the makeup, don't overdo the eyeshadow, don't overdo the lipstick and the blush and all that. You can teach them that. Just pick your battles. There's just so much anger in so many homes over just such trivial things. And that will really drive a wedge between you and your kids. And why? I think a lot of this is just a way to make the parents look super spiritual or something. My daughter's dressed like the Amish. Look how spiritual I am. And it's an over spirituality type thing. And it's not a hill I'm gonna die on when it comes to stuff like that. So it is okay to passionately hate LOL dolls. Yes. I don't aren't those? Wait, no, I'm thinking of the Bratz dolls. The Bratz dolls are evil. Those ones look like hussies. They're all painted up and things like that. My girls have never really gotten into any of that stuff. They love My Life dolls and they love My Little Ponies. And so, but my husband actually did ban My Little Ponies in our house not very long ago because they did get like a lesbian pony on there, which was just so my girls had to stop watching it. So we drew the line there. As far as the little figurines, though, for the older ones, they like playing with them in their little towns and things. That's kind of their thing that they used to, that they like to play with. So that's not, that's not really a big deal. Sorry, I'm reading the comments on here. I'm missing all my comments. I'm sorry, guys. Exactly, Kirsten. Having a TV, yeah, it can be used like a computer. That's basically what we use ours for. We use it for YouTube and Amazon Prime and things like that. So, and then let's see. All right, sorry, I'm trying not to miss any chat here. Kirsten said, whenever they see him in the store, her daughters yell, "Look away, moms." That's funny. Yeah, my daughters have never had the LOL dolls, which is good because they're super expensive. I always think it's so stupid to spend so much money on this like tiny little thing. It's so dumb. Shelly said, my daughter's wanting to wear makeup and I want to be the one to teach her. It's just fun, but we can't find makeup that doesn't break her out. Very sensitive skin. I'm sorry. You can try like Bare Minerals. I think there's My Minerals with Kirsten Graves on Facebook. I've used her stuff before and it's done really well for my skin. So maybe look into the organic type or the type that's, non-chemical for sure. So, and then don't be over the top with your rules. I basically went over that. Some parents are really over the top. And I really believe it's just a way to, well, I don't let my kids do this. If my kids even utter the word Disney, they get spanked. 5 swats, automatic. Utter the word Disney, in trouble. Come on. Don't be so over the top like that. That's crazy. And your kids are going to, the first chance they get, it's going to be bye-bye. Have a pleasant home. Don't raise kids in a household where they have to tiptoe around on eggshells. And unfortunately, I've known homes like this where every day is tense. Every day is a war zone. They don't know if mom and dad are going to be fighting or yelling or screaming or throwing things at each other. And it really takes the toll on kids, almost like a PTSD, whatever those initials are, almost like a post-traumatic PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It really takes a toll on kids. They need a peaceful home. They need a pleasant home. They need a home where they know mom and dad really love each other. And I really believe that mom and dad having a stable relationship is one of the things that's going to raise good kids. Even if you don't think it's that big of a deal, it really is. Your kids don't want you fighting. They want you to get along. They want you to love each other. They want to know that you guys are in it for the long haul and nothing will ever separate you. And it's a very peaceful feeling when you provide a good relationship for your kids to watch. And also, your kids are going to pattern future relationships based off of your relationship with your husband. They're going to see how you interact. Girls are going to see how you interact with your husband. They're probably going to interact similar with their future husbands. And then your boys are going to pick up on how their dads treat their moms. And that's why so many, abusive dads raise abusive sons, because that is the pattern. That is what they see. It's really hard to break out of that. It can be done. Karen, I agree. I wish I could go back 10 years. I feel like the older I get, and it's true. I believe if you are a Christian lady that's really seeking the Lord and you want to be molded into his image, obviously, as the years go on, you learn about patience and you learn about temperance and meekness and all these things. And so, I'm so proud. I'm so glad that my older 3 have, don't have battle scars. Not so much, I was never over the top when it came to stuff, but, temper, yelling, things like that. I probably yelled a lot when I had 3 younger kids. I was just so overwhelmed. And even though I have more kids now and I'm going on kid number 8, I feel like Mrs. Anderson was talking about last week about patience being a muscle and how you have to work that out. And you just every day work out that patience a little bit more and that muscle keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. It's so true. I have so much more patience now, having way more kids and way more on my plate than I did, when I had 3. So it is definitely something that we learn as we go. So it does help you seeing how your mom and dad treated each other. It sets a precedent for relationships with you. So, yep, exactly, Ashley. Yeah, I covered that earlier. She said, my pastor said kids shouldn't be afraid to ask why. They need to know the reason, not just because I said so. Obviously, when it comes to some stuff, why can't I cross the road when a car is coming? Because I said so. If it's real quick, you just need to listen. You need to obey. They can't argue with every little thing, especially if you're like in a situation where you have to be obeyed instantly. They can't argue with every little thing. But if you have time to explain, maybe later after that situation has passed. Now, this is why you have to listen to me and you can't cross the street when a car is coming because you're going to die. If that car hits you, explain that to them. And that's kind of silly, but don't have an angry home. There's been a lot of people I've seen, their house is just completely filled with yelling and screaming and anger. And most of the time, when the kid turns 18, they are gone. And the first thing they do when they leave the house is they go and they get a tattoo. They go and they start shacking up with a girl. They go and they start partying and drinking. And it's really a shame. I'm not saying anger is the only reason for that. Obviously, there's all these other things that go into it that we've been talking about. But they have, most of the kids that are raised by an angry parent have a lot of bitterness issues that they have to work through. And it takes a long time to get the angry words out of their head and to really work through that and to move on as an adult. And I know adults in their 30s and 40s that are still struggling with bitterness over the way that they were raised. And obviously, that is a personal problem. They're just going to have to get over it and move on. But, you know, let's try to raise kids that are functioning, happy adults and not kids that need therapy, you know. And I think this goes for saved and unsaved. I mean, obviously, we as saved people should have the advantage because the Bible does talk about being joyful and being happy. And that's so important. It goes into raising happy kids, you know, and the unsaved, they aren't taught things like that. So we do have the advantage of being Christians and learning what God's word says about being a happy mother and being a happy wife and all these things. So, you know, don't stress the small stuff. Like I said, pick your battles, really pick your battles, and decide what's going to be the big deal in your house, you know. And maybe my kids think that some of the things that we do, maybe they think we make too big of a deal about it, but we've always tried to be consistent with our rules and our standards. And there are just some things that aren't done in the McMurtry home. And it's just a hard fact. We don't do these things. But then when it comes to other things, I don't know, maybe people would be aghast at some of the things we let our kids do. I don't know. But we've decided, you know, we're not going to sweat a lot of the small stuff. A lot of parents just, their kids are always on edge. Am I going to mess up? What if I break this rule? Or what if I break this rule? You know, just have some few hard rules that your kids are going to know. If I do this, this is wrong. This is crossing the line. Make sure that they know what they are. And then when it comes to all the little small stuff, just, you know, pick your battles and stop sweating the small stuff. So all right. How do I make my mom happy? Any suggestions? Well, can I ask how old you are? Echo. There's a lot of different things that you can do to make your mom happy. So, Amber said, yelling is so my downfall right now. Yeah, I've been there. I get so overwhelmed and then I yell and feel guilty later. It's hard to be patient, but I'm working on it. Patience is like a muscle, right? Yeah, patience muscle. It's one we can all work on for sure. But it's cute because Kelly is like so, you know, she's so attuned to what her siblings and things around her do and her mom does, that she just gets freaked out by loud noises. Like she'll like jump because, you know, she's just not used to that. So Jason, today he was like, he didn't really even say anything meanly. She had a can of unopened root beer. She was playing with it or something. And Jason was like, Kavin, what are you doing? And she went, oh, and she like started crying because she's not used to the yelling. So, you know, your kids get conditioned to whatever type of home that you raise them in. And then, you know, if you're constantly yelling, that's going to lose its effectiveness. You know, there are times that you need to yell. You know, if your child's about to get hurt, they're about to do something stupid, you know, you go, don't do that. You know, you need to yell like that really loud to get their attention. But if you're constantly yelling, it's just going to go right over their head. So, you know, be careful about the times that you yell. Your kids get to a point where they just tune you out and yelling has no effect. So I would definitely be watching that. So, let me see. That's funny. I was laughing at the comment about studying fish and ocean animals in science. That's funny. Jessica said, my mom always told me to never pray for patience because God may choose to test yours. Yeah, that's true. I feel like when we pray for something, God's like, okay, you want to learn patience? Here you go. Okay, so Jen said, any examples of what sort of stuff should be considered small or large for little kids 5 and below? Okay, so I would keep it very basic. So a big thing when they're 5 is lying and disobedience should be big no-nos. Okay, small things would be like maybe unintentionally making a mess. You know, if they do, just having them clean up with you. Accidentally breaking something. I'm not talking about breaking something on purpose and being vindictive. You know, obviously there's a difference and you can tell usually if they broke something. Yeah, I would not sweat. Kids are going to break stuff. You know, I've just determined in my house, we're not going to have nice things until our kids are grown and gone. So probably like 30 years from now. No, I doubt it will be that long, but we're probably not going to have nice things things are not a big deal to me. They just aren't. They're just not a big deal to me. So, you know, you can tell if a kid genuinely is sorry about something that they did. What would something else be? At school at 5, you have to be careful not to overwhelm them. You have to be careful that they don't grow to hate it because you want them to love learning and you want them to like reading and things like that. So if you sense that your daughter is getting frustrated when it comes to school, ease up a little bit. Find something else to do that's fun. They're only going to be a kid for a little time. They have plenty of time to learn how to read and all of that. So I would watch out for that for sure when they're 5. Trying to think of what other small things there would be when it comes to kids that age. You know, for me, I know people have, you know, kids are going to be loud. Kids are going to be crazy. Kids are going to make messes. And the chaos doesn't really get to me like it used to. Sometimes it does, but not as much as it used to. So I kind of embrace it anymore. And I think it's hilarious that our family is chaos a lot of the time. So I would not sweat loud noises and, you know, chaotic times. It's going to happen. You know, I would not grow frustrated over that for kids that age. So I hope that helps. Yeah. Oh, Amber said, yelling has no effect. I'm basically yelling at myself. Then I cry and they're like, Mom, why are you crying? That's sad. I've always tried to not cry in front of my kids. That's just a big deal for me. I'm not a crier. So there's only been a handful of times my kids have actually seen me cry. I know it shook Abby up when I had the baby before Kelly that I miscarried. I took her with to my ultrasound. It was supposed to be this exciting time. And then we found out the baby had died. And I did cry there. And I know it really bothered her because she's not used to seeing me cry. So if something ever big happens and my kids see me cry, I think it'll have more of an effect on them because I'm not a crier. And I think it's the same way with yelling. You know, if you're not a yeller and there comes a situation where you have to yell about something, it's going to have more of an effect than if you're just constantly yelling. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Abby said, that's the only time I've ever seen you cry. So, and she's 15. So it's very rare that my kids see me cry. So if they make me cry, they're going to know it was a very, very big deal. And I hope it will make an impression. Abby, if you ever do that, just remember. Just remember. Amber said, I try to hide when I cry, but you know they find me. Yeah, kids have a way of doing that for sure. Oh, that's funny, Jessica. She said a couple years ago after hearing a sermon, she prayed to be able to control her tongue. Then she lost her voice for 2 weeks. God's like, okay, here you go. That's hilarious. Okay, so I still have some points. It's been an hour. All right, I'll try to hurry through these. So some days it's going to be bad. Okay, there's no way around it. However, your kids should not live in a state where they're constantly on edge and stressed out. They'll want to move out as soon as they're 18. Kids don't want to live in a very stressful home. They're just going to want to escape that. So be careful about that. You know, your kids are going to see your hypocrisy. This is another big one. I'll try to cover this quickly because I'm going over my time. I'm talking a lot tonight. Hypocrisy is a big, big deal breaker for kids. And I personally have seen many families where the families came to church and the mom was always happy and smiling, and they were always seemed so like the most godly people. And then you find out there's horrible things going on at home. There's screaming and yelling and abuse and books flying through the air and just crazy off the wall tempers. And it's crazy. Some of the stuff I found out was going on, and the kids hate it. The kids see that. They see how their parents are basically fist fighting on the way to church, and they walk in all smiles like nothing's happening. Hey everyone, how are you? Oh, it's a glorious day. God is good. Just don't. Your kids see right through that. They will know. In fact, something came out once and the kids told me after it was found out, they said, we are so relieved because you don't know how hard it is when, my mom does this and then we have to come to church, like nothing's happened and she's great and everyone loves her and blah, blah, blah. And the kids were just so relieved that the truth was out. And, your kids see everything. They know if you genuinely love the Lord. They know if you're going to church for the right reasons. They know if, you're trying to serve the Lord for the right reasons. They see it all. So if you're faking it just to look good to others, your kids are going to know it. They're going to know that it's fake. So try to teach and train in such a way that it will be your kids' conviction, not just one they're being forced to follow. This is one reason that, and I've told my kids this often, I don't like sneakiness, because I feel like when kids sneak around, they're doing it because they know their parents don't approve. But when they're sneaking around, it means that it's not really their conviction. They're just trying to get away with it. And so that bothers me. I do not like sneakiness when it comes to kids trying to get around the rules. My heart's desire is that the things I'm teaching my kids are going to be their conviction. They're going to know why I do the things I do. And they're going to know, why I don't watch the movies I don't watch and different things like that. And so if I find out they've been sneaking around and doing it behind my back, that really hurts me. It breaks my heart because I know that it's not their conviction and they still have some growing to do, until they come to that point where they decide that it is their conviction and they really truly believe it and they want to serve the Lord and they want to do right. And this is why they're doing it. So, but yeah, train throughout the whole day. Don't leave it to the church or other people. Don't just think that you can, go in your room and lock yourself in your room for 10 hours a day and your kids are going to turn out. That's probably not going to happen. If I take my kids to church 3 times a week, they're going to learn and they're going to turn out that way. No, you have to put the time and effort into it. You have to be around them all day. You have to be explaining things. One of the things that's always been good when we drive places, we talk a lot, we're driving places, and that's a good time. We've had some of our deep, heartfelt talks in the car, driving to church and driving home from church and going on trips and things. So, really take the time to train them and teach them, explain to them why we believe the things that we believe, So then train, our kids will see your love. Kids will see if you love the Lord and if it's genuine, or if it's just a front to make yourself look good to your church. They're going to see based off your actions and your speech at home, if it's just something you put on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, or if it's something that you put on, you're trying to put on the Spirit throughout the whole week. You're trying to live in the Spirit the whole week, not just something that you put on for church, just to appear better to everyone else or whatever. So balance discipline and love. Parents can overdo it for sure when it comes to the discipline. And remember, your goal is not to break their will so completely that you have little zombified children. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Now, that's all good thing. But you don't want to zombify them. You don't want them to just be, have no will or no spirit of their own. Thank the Lord if your child has a strong spirit, because they're going to need it in the years to come. Thank the Lord that I have a strong spirit and I am determined, because it's been what's kept me going through a lot of things. I know I'm passionate about the things I believe in, but I truly believe it's because, I do have a strong will, but you can you can train that strong will to do great things for the Lord. And we're going to need it in the years. I mean, if the stupid Corona thing hasn't shown you anything, it's shown you how easy it is for the government to take over everything and completely change your life. And we know as the days go into the end times that it's going to be coming, and we're going to have very strong children taking very strong stands, and they need to know why they're taking the stand. Why are we not accepting the mark of the beast? Why are we not going along with, everything that they're telling us to do? They need to know why. You need to show them why. You need to raise strong warriors in your men and, strong godly women that can stand up against the propaganda and the lies that this world tells us. So you can train that strong will. I thank the Lord that I have kids with strong wills, because I think it's going to make them into determined Christians that stand strong for the Lord. So definitely. I have a dry throat. I don't have the Corona, don't worry. So, if your kid has a question about a standard of conviction, sit down, explain it. I kind of went over that already. Don't tell them to shut up and obey. Teens especially get to the point where they want to know why you're doing what you're doing. That's perfectly fine. Just because they're asking questions does not mean they're rebellious, they're a reprobate, whatever. They're naturally curious. They start stretching out, and they start discovering their independence. They start realizing that, they have a will of their own and a mind of their own. So that's the time when you especially need to have a lot of talks, and you really need to make sure that you have their heart. Let them know you love them. Let them know you're proud of them. And explain why you do what you do. So that's awesome, Mila. She says she's watching with her morning coffee here in Philippines. I actually drank a cup of coffee. Total side note. I actually drank a cup of coffee for the first time today in 2 months, because I have a really hard time when I'm pregnant drinking coffee at first. And it wasn't even that good. I don't know what's wrong with me. Isn't that awful? I'm hoping in a couple weeks I get my taste back for it. But we'll see what happens. Because I love having my morning cup of coffee. It's like one of my favorite times of day. So, it's easy. This is another thing I wanted to say. Right now in this NIFB, we have a lot of families with little kids. And it's really easy to be a blowhard about, I'm going to do this with my kids, and I'm going to make them do this, and they're going to be like this, blah, 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 blah. It's really, really easy to make young kids do what you want. Okay? But not so much when they're teens and they're young adults. If you do not have the time, if you do not have their heart by the time they're adults, it'll be one battle after another. Your house will be a war zone. It's like having adults in the home. So if you have an adult with a contrary opinion and they don't understand why you're still making them do the things that you're making them do, it will be a war zone. And it'll be one fight after another. So, get their hearts from the time that they're young. Really instill the standards and convictions in them and let them know why we do these things, because we love the Lord and this is why, So it's super easy. And I don't even care if I've heard it so many times from these keyboard warriors. Well, my kid will never do this. Oh, okay. How old are your kids? Well, they're 3 and 5. Yeah, okay. Come to me in 12 years and let's see what you have to say. Be really careful saying, my kid will never do this when you've got a 2 and a 3-year-old. Let's wait until you have a 16-year-old and you have a 17-year-old and you have an 18-year-old. Let's wait and see if they are following your direction and they're coming to church willingly and they're serving the Lord willingly. Let's wait until then, and then I'll listen to what you have to say. So it's really easy to make young kids do what you want. Not so much when they're older. So my goal raising kids was that someday they would accept the Lord and acquire convictions of their own, rather than just being forced to listen to me because they had to. I've never wanted to raise minions or little soldiers that just fell in line to do your command but didn't know why they were doing it. I wanted to raise functioning adults that didn't need therapy and they genuinely love the Lord and want to serve him. That's my whole goal. Like I said, whether or not my boys grow up to be preachers, which I don't think either of them has the desire, I couldn't care less. I want them to find a good wife someday, provide for them, come to church and be happy. I want my daughters to marry a good guy, that's stable, come to church and be happy. And that's really all I want for my kids. And that's what I am trying to do. And that's the goal I'm trying to accomplish. So I hope that was a help. I just went over some of the things that have really stuck out to me raising kids all these years, and different things that I've seen other families doing that don't work, things I've seen that do work. One family I know in church, they were super special to our family. We were always very close to them at my old church. They had 5 children, and they had 5 children, and they were, they weren't involved. They weren't like a pastor's family or anything, but they were just loyal, faithful members in our church, and they did a good job raising their kids. Their kids, almost all of them, have grown up to marry someone in the ministry. So even though they weren't in the ministry, they were involved in church. They had their kids right there. They were hard workers. They had a love. They loved on those kids. They told those kids they were so proud of them. They raised good kids. And I learned a lot from watching that family in our church. And I'm trying to pattern a lot of what we do in our family based off of what they did. And so far, so good. So come to me in 10 years and we'll see if I've updated my advice. I'm only 18 and a half years into this. So this is just what I've learned from 18 and a half years of parenting, and then, almost 20 years in the ministry. So take what you want, try to apply what you want, leave the rest, do what works for your family, but just try to raise happy kids. Try to love the Lord with all your heart. Your priorities will fall into place. Love your kids and your husband with all your heart. And kids will forgive a lot if they know that you love them and you're proud of them. They'll overlook a lot. So, I'm blessed with my kids, and they don't give me that many problems. So, obviously, I'm constantly putting out fires all day long, but overall, it's a very, very low stress life, as far as being peaceful in our home. So, and I mean peaceful as far as internal conflicts. If you come to our home, we have 2 guys that come over every week, and they're trying to help my husband finish this little bathroom that we were remodeling during this whole thing. And Brother Brian is just laughing because our house is just like chaos. Like, I'm trying to teach Lana her school, and Kelly keeps coming in, like crying, wanting on my lap. And then Allie keeps coming out. I'm telling her to do school. And he's just like, wow, it's always busy around the McMurtry home. Like, yes, it is. But I love it. Our house is chaos, but it's a happy chaos. I'd rather have a happy chaos than an angry chaos or something. So, just love on your children, your husband, and I hope this helped. If you have any ideas for shows, please let me know. I'm always looking for new ideas. And then I'll see about having a guest on in the next couple of weeks. I haven't decided on what yet. Let me know what topics you would like to hear about. Comment below if you have any topics that you want to hear about, and I will look into trying to do them. I've had a couple emails in the past couple weeks that I will try to get to for sure. So other than that, let me make sure. Wendy, you're coming on right when I'm signing off. So, all right. So I think that's about it. I don't see any other questions. Oh, Ashley did ask, should teens have to go soul winning if they aren't going with a willing heart? I do encourage mine to go yes, even if they're not in the mood. And I found that even if they go when they're not in the mood, by the time they came back, they're glad they went. So, yeah, I do. That is one of the things I do. I do like them doing, like them going soul winning, even if they don't actually feel like it at the time. So, okay, I think that's about it. So, not the corona again. It's just a scratchy throat from talking so much. So I will see you guys next week. All right. Bye.